Again, nerds, golf nerds unite. It's Swing Thoughts. Another episode. This is just, I feel like this is like a casual Friday episode because we record on Fridays. It's way out of the golf season. And it's just Tim and I hanging out in between other assignments. I'm Humble Howard from the Humble and Fred Show, of course. Golf spiritual leader from the Guelph Griffins and parts unknown. He is the coach with a heart of gold, ladies and gentlemen. He is Coach Tim O'Connor. When I met him, he was just a lowly newspaperman.
Copy boy.
Copy boy. He was the Jimmy Olsen. And now look at him. Now look at him. All right. Good to see you, Coach. I know you were up late, watching Ted Lasso again. That's okay. I found the second season different. A lot of people didn't like it. What do you think of it?
It was interesting to see. There's a couple of episodes where I was worried, did it jump the shark?
Yeah, pull that right up by your mouth there.
I worried about whether that had happened, but
what the episode with Coach Beard doing the nighttime thing?
That was a bit strange, because
it was pretty weird.
It was such a like a deviation from the narrative arc of it, and the Christmas one. It was kind of like, oh, really? The Christmas one was kind of like weird, but
there's a story behind that if you'd like. About why they had to do that. So there's most people listening will just assume you know what we're talking about. If you don't, it's fine. Go watch Ted Lasso. So in the second season, they had been given an order for 8 episodes. And so they created a story arc, to your point, that was 8 episodes long from beginning and end. And it followed the arc that we've seen on the show. And then the success of the show was so big that Apple, or is it Disney? I think it's Apple. Apple ordered 2 more episodes. So they were like, well, we've already finished the story. So they just threw in the Christmas episode, which was a nod to Notting Hill. And what's a Christmas?
You know
what I'm saying?
Here we are, people over 60, trying to remember stuff.
But it's
like one of the most brutal Christmas movies.
What's it called? It's
with a guy in it.
Don't look it up. Don't look it up.
It had that guy, like the charming English guy in it.
Yeah.
Yes, Hugh Grant. Exactly.
I think it's called Charming English People Have Christmas.
Exactly.
It's Charming Christmas. Notting Hill Christmas.
I just remember watching it and going, oh my God, I survived that.
The whole thing is crazy. Anyway, so that Christmas movie, so that's why Ted Lasso did an homage. I like that. An homage to that Christmas movie. And the other episode with Coach Beard, which I at first hated, because as you say, it interrupted the arc. And then I went and looked up what they were trying to do, and it was sort of an ode or an homage to another famous movie called After Hours. I think that's the name of the movie, but it's basically a movie that takes place all at night, and it feels very claustrophobic, and it felt very un-Ted Lasso. But I guess they did it just as sort of to fill in those 2 extra shows.
Yeah, no, I'm going to look forward to, as you were saying, I'm going through a second pass through of Ted Lasso, and I watched, it was either 5 or 6 episodes last night to conclude season 1. But I was wondering, because I remember they have sort of the truth circle, where I forget, I think it's near the beginning of season 2, where Ted admits to the panic attack. Nathan admits to kissing Keeley, and Coach Beard admits to being sort of on mushrooms for a game or something.
That was great.
So I kind of wondered if the After Hours thing was Coach Beard had taken psilocybin or something.
He'd been on mushrooms. By the way, thanks to the internet, Coach Tim, the Christmas movie we're thinking about is Love Actually.
That's right.
Charming British people having Christmas. And my favorite part of that movie, and I don't mind that movie, my kids and I like to watch it, is the Beach Boys song. This is from Pet Sounds for you young kids who don't know what we're listening to. And I'll tell you, if you've ever wondered where Sgt. Pepper came from, it came from Pet Sounds.
No, sir. Other way around. Other way around completely.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Okay, relax now. Just relax.
You're going to go on the internet and prove me wrong.
No, I'm just going to find out. I thought it was. I actually thought the Beatles. Which came first? I thought it was Sgt. Pepper. I thought once that came out, every band in the land went, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do?" But you might be right. I only think that's because I had recently seen that movie with John Cusack as Brian Wilson.
Oh. We could really go down a rabbit hole here, like YouTube, going down in terms of music. I just saw on another note, somewhat related. Have you watched any of the Beatles Get Back documentary by Peter Jackson?
Seen it, the entire thing.
Wow. I just watched part 1 last weekend, and there was parts in that where I kind of had goosebumps.
No, I know the point where you watch him create Get Back.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And listen, I know you're feeling a little bit tired, and I don't want to get you upset, but Paul McCartney has acknowledged that Pet Sounds was the primary impetus behind the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album.
And
again, it's not a contest, but I only know that because I was watching that movie recently.
Okay.
If you don't have Disney, you've got to get a friend to lend it to you for Get Back, the Beatles doc. I've watched the whole thing. Here's an interesting story, too. I feel like I'm telling you all sorts of music trivia. Disney, which normally doesn't allow swearing on any of its platforms. You go, the whole point of Disney is that you can watch it with all the family. But Peter Jackson asked and received an exemption.
Papal dispensation?
So that he could have, the boys from Liverpool speak like boys from Liverpool. Although they don't swear, a whole lot.
Not a
but
ton.
there's some F-bombs in there, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but that'd be like, okay, you had some footage of Mozart and you're going to edit it out. Mozart creating things. And that's part of what I found amazing about it. I remember when you watch McCartney do work on Get Back, and it's really interesting. He's just got the melody and he's singing gibberish. Sometimes when he's playing the bass like a guitar as well. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, he was kind of strumming it.
Yeah, then you see him and Lennon starting to work together on it, and it's like, wow, this is so cool. That's like, that was one of those, the hair stood up on my arms moment. There's a lot of tedium as well.
Oh, yeah. Like the middle one, I think part 2. Let me just comment on what you said, because Fred and I basically spent 4 days, because he's as big a Beatle fan as I am and as you are. So we spent most of this past week on the Humble and Fred show talking about it. So a couple of these points are fresh. But it's interesting to me that the middle, like it did get a little bit, it sort of dragged on, but I think it kind of gave you a sense of what life was like for them. There was lots of tedious moments. But, one of my almost last thing before we get to golf, for me anyway, there's something in my head where I thought at the end maybe Lennon and McCartney weren't really getting along. And what they were doing, they were acting like anybody who had worked together a long time. Mm-hmm. But as I said to Freddie, there were so many moments where you could see the two of them looking at each other with such joy, smiling at each other, and just that kind of feel between two guys that have been through so much together, that there was still lots of fun in that studio, I felt anyway.
Absolutely. And that's just the little comments they make to each other and the little glimpses they have. Like on the Let It Be album, you hear like these little things, like even the inclusion of Maggie May in there. They just start to play and have some fun and press it's all being recorded. And
there's all these songs that they were sort of remembering that they wrote as teenagers and they started playing. And then they started playing their own like Beatles songs. Like you sort of forget that they were 29 Lennon, 27 McCartney, 23 or 4 George, and I think Ringo was the oldest at 32. They were just kids.
Exactly.
No, especially to two old guys like us. All right, let's talk about our sponsors. We're thrilled. There's a couple things we have an announcement to make.
Yes.
Well, it's a sort of an announcement, but we'd like to, maybe you could lead by, I'll mention our meeting yesterday. You can talk about our sponsorship returning for 2022.
Okay, so I'll lead with that we're venturing into merch now.
No, I said I'll do. Okay, you do the merch first, then I'll mention the sponsors.
Okay. Yeah, so we've thought about for a little while how we can kind of share the joy of Swing Thoughts with our devoted listeners. And so thinking of how to do that, and merch seemed to be an obvious way to do it. So let's do some real golf stuff. So we've entered into a relationship with Dave Stewart of Hathaway Stewart, and they have he brings the Jones bags into Canada,
Right.
but he's also come up with this amazing product called the Storm Towel and some pretty nifty head covers that we're going to customize.
Well, and just to be clear, if I may interrupt, we're not offering them to you now. We're just letting you know that for the first time in our 6-year history, we're finally going to ask you for something.
Well, yeah, and soon to be 7-year history, man.
Really?
Yeah, in January, it's 7 years we've been doing this thing that you've been putting up with, looking at me and doing these things. So, yeah, we're going to be offering
Very
merch
athletic
next year.
today, by the way. You look very coachy today. I like that.
Oh, I got my Griffin hoodie on.
It's a very handsome hoodie. I would buy that hoodie.
It is. It's so comfy. I got 2 of them.
Maybe the old Howman can get some Griffin merch. Anyway, so Tim's talking about this thing. I don't want you to get the idea that act now operators are standing by. But continue. This guy he's a friend of Tim's. He's a golf guy, and he's a real pro at what he does.
Yeah. So Dave, he was a golf professional. He went into the food business for 20 years back into golf because he just loves it so much. But a really sharp business guy who saw that there was a kind of a gap in the market for some interesting products. And one is, the old rain hood is a pain in the neck, right? To put on your golf bag with snaps and Velcro. So he created this towel that works as a rain hood. You just throw it over, and then it also works as a towel, but you don't see the towel, so because it's all enclosed. And anyways,
I think a lot of guys listening probably know what we're talking about there, because and again for sure,
Titleist had one.
Titleist has one. A few companies have them, but any bag that I've ever gotten that has that snap-on rain hood is just always thought it was useless.
Exactly.
But this thing that Dave is talking about with us, we think it's the kind of product. Again, we thought a lot about, should we do T-shirts or hats? And Timmy, I got to be honest with you, when you told me about this, I thought this is the perfect Swing Thoughts thing because it's got some quality to it. It's not a little throwaway thing. And in the new year, we'll give you some details on how you can order them. But we're pretty thrilled with this. And I think it'll be a nice product for people to display their, and we can customize it. We're going to put a couple different slogans on. Maybe we can put STDs on it somewhere.
That's right. A conversation starter on the first tee. Hi, I'm Bill. I'm Frank. STD.
STD. Have you been tested?
Exactly. And some of our phrases we like to use here on Swing Thoughts.
Yeah.
I slightly don't care, and
when it's your turn, take your turn. I'll have to ask Henrik if that's okay.
One swing away from a complete meltdown.
One swing away from chaos. Golf is chaos. What I'd really like to do is have one that says, past performance is no indication of future results, but that's too many words. And speaking of years, for the first time, I think, since we've been doing this, we have now re-signed both of our sponsors for the 2022 golf season. Maybe I can find that. Oh, there we go. So I'll tell you what, you take Jonathan, I'll take TaylorMade. Let me start. TaylorMade has been such a supporter of both Tim and I. Even before I was doing Swing Thoughts, I was working with Stu Bannatyne. They were giving me some stuff, and it was a great relationship, and it's continued with Nick and Kevin and everyone over there. And we are very, very lucky We do this show because we love to, and we'll be honest with you, be authentic. We're not doing it for money. I mean, it's great for Tim's business, and it's great for my profile in the golf world. So I love doing it, but I can tell you, Timmy and I love the relationship with TaylorMade because we get access to their equipment. We get to feel like we're part of the conversation when it comes to, what's being played. Now, it's great to get free golf clubs, but, it's a great golf company to be involved with. And I just want to say thanks, and we're grateful for their support. And it comes from the fact that you people have been supporting us for the last 6 to soon to be 7 years.
Yeah, because if we didn't have a bunch of listeners,
exactly,
we wouldn't have sponsors hoping to reach them. So thanks very much, folks, for hanging in there with us. So yeah, we're really excited about that. We're even getting fitted on Wednesday. That's pretty cool.
The earliest I've ever gotten fit there too. Usually I wait till about February, but I was thrilled about that. And of course, our other sponsors back, Tim.
Yes, exactly. Jonathan Wong Apparel Inc. Last year was our first kick of the can with Jonathan, and it went really well. And so we've re-upped with John. That's awesome. He his company distributes higher level apparel. I mean, I'm still nervous sometimes when I wear it that I'm going to get a mustard stain on it or something. But
he's got some really nice stuff. Although some of those polos are accessible, and so there's some affordability in it. It's
absolutely, but
expensive.
It's like,
but it's a cut above for sure.
But it's anything of quality.
Mm-hmm,
it's going to cost you a little bit more, but lasts for years. I mean, I got all kinds of golf shirts that after one season, gone.
Listen, I got food stains from like 2019 on some old Adidas stuff I was wearing.
Anyway. Yeah. Well, this stuff that Jonathan Wong has, it's like high value, great stuff. Fairway and green, B Draddy, EPNY,
zero restriction, all of that. Yeah.
Garb and PRG, and the Royal Albatross shoes.
Royal Albatross.
Yes, I love wearing those things. I remember the first time I wore my black pair, I was 5 minutes on property at Blue Springs, and I had like 3 people going, "Hey, those are amazing shoes, man."
It's funny you say that because I don't. I'm not normally matched up very well. I'm colorblind, so I don't. I just have to get. Like right now, I get Rachel to tell me what shirts go with what shorts. But there was a couple of color combinations I got in the shorts, and I can't remember who made them, but I've never had other dudes say, "Hey, where'd you get those?" Because they look like golf shorts, but they look like you're wearing something different than the standard sort of fare.
Yeah, well, they're stylish, and they're really high quality. Just have a good cut, angle, all that stuff. I'm not much of a fashionista, but they just look really, really good, and they stand up after washings and all that kind of stuff.
So thanks to Jonathan and TaylorMade, and we are so looking forward to another great season. Just a couple other housekeeping items. We'll probably do another show, I'm going to guess, before the end of the year. And then, of course, January, February, March, we'll continue to do what we normally do, which is in the off season, if you're new to the podcast. We basically try and get together every couple of weeks when there's golf stuff to discuss, and then as soon as April rolls around, we're back to every week. So that's that. In the world of golf, there's I guess the biggest story. What do you think the biggest story of the last 7 days is?
That Wayne Gretzky's going to fund a Mo Norman movie.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Wayne and Janet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm pretty excited about it. Having written Mo's biography back in '95, and people ask me about what do I think about it. I think it's amazing. I mean, I am a friend. An industry acquaintance would be more true of Barry Morrow, who you may know, or that name may ring a bell because he wrote the screenplay and wrote it and won an Oscar for it for The Rain Man.
Right.
And he wrote a script on a biopic for Mo, but he could never get it financed. So, but this fellow David Carver, who's actually from Newfoundland, he's a music promoter. He's brought in acts like ZZ Top and Tom Petty and those in, and he's come up with his own script and his own deal, and it took a while, but he finally got someone with some heft, like the Gretzky's.
So that's the one. So that's the script that Gretzky's going to develop. Now, is this not the same group of people that are doing the Mo documentary?
Correct. The Mo documentary is actually
where's that at?
Well, they've got the like 95% of the interviews done for that. They're still trying to get interviews with kind of what we'll call A-listers, people like Lee Trevino, Paul Azinger. But Todd Graves is the guy behind that movie. He's the executive producer. And Barry Morrow is a key person in the making of that documentary. He's doing most of the interviews.
So not to be confusing. So Barry Morrow, who had originally written a scripted
fictional movie
about Mo, then signed on with Graves for the documentary.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
It's called The Feeling of Greatness, the same name as my book. Yeah. So
that is an interesting story in the world of golf. That is not the story that is the biggest story in the world of golf, but that's a great story.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy about it. It's certainly in my orbit. It was the big story of the week.
Well, I think so. Do you want to know what the biggest story is, or should we just leave that hanging there?
No, you go for it. I could take a guess.
What do you think? What do you think it is?
Let's see. That players can't use green books anymore.
That a 13-second video of a guy in
Tiger.
shorts,
Yeah, exactly.
a wedge was seen by 100 million people in about 15 minutes. You know, I mean, I love Tiger. Probably, you know, I know I love him more than you do because you've got your own deity. I only have Tiger. But I was surprised because I'm really part of this whole golf Twitter community. That's originally how I got to sort of meet Lou Stagner and Fawcett online. But anyway, it was just hilarious to me. And it is a big story. I mean, Tiger coming back. Tiger is the needle. You know, say what you want about the world of golf and the health of the game, and it is healthy. But there's no doubt that he still has such impact because on social media, within an hour of that video being released, it was just madness.
Yeah, exactly.
Every conceivable, from Golf Digest to golfcom.com to the No Laying Up guys to all those guys, Barstool Sports, all the dudes on Twitter, everybody I'm even beyond golf, but I found it fascinating that even just him hitting some wedges. And then, of course, a couple days ago, yesterday was the day that the Hero World Challenge began. And then he's out there on the back of the range the day before hitting some like 5 woods or something, making some full swings. And it's like, what? What? Is he going to try this again?
Yeah, even though I thought it was very interesting the way it was sort of all rolled out. So you have the 8-second video, and then you have the Golf Digest interview.
Yeah.
And then you have the Hero World Challenge. So it's all just kind of snowballing
As you
along.
know, that's no
No, there's no coincidence there. No, all of that. But what I found very fascinating about that is that, you know, all these people saying, "Wait, yeah, Tiger's back, and maybe it'll be a night, you know, maybe he can get the Jacks majors." And well, I think most people were pretty realistic about it. But in essence, Tiger was saying, "Look, I'm not going to be out on tour regular. Me trying to compete with these guys in majors, but all these media guys are going like, yeah, but it's Tiger. He can do anything." And he's trying to tell people, essentially, my career's mainly over. I'll come out maybe like Mr. Hogan. I can do a few things, but
well, Hogan after the accident
was a lot younger.
True, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it was just the media. I mean, those hundreds of millions of people were, it just goes to show you. I mean, like, it's like when Jordan went back to playing, basketball. It's when, Nicholas won in '86. There's just few sporting figures that can make a noise in their sport. It's funny, that PIP, that player impact program thing.
Oh, that thing, yes.
Well, one of the guys I follow online, he's very funny. He's a good golfer. His name is Jim Herman. And he's a sort of a journeyman PGA Tour pro. But his running gag is how he's doing whatever he can for some of that sweet PIP money. Anyway, and he's always tweeting about still silly stuff he did that will get him PIP points. Well, when Tiger puts out the video, he put out something like, "Oh, great! There goes all the PIP money." He said, I've worked hard all year, and Tiger's going to get the lion's share for just a 13-second video." But I don't know. Listen, man, I would have. Obviously, it's strategic. Tiger has a relationship with this golf tournament, so he didn't put the video out of him hitting wedges 2 weeks ago. I'm not, we're not naive. So the video comes out, then a couple days later, the Golf Digest interview, and then, of course, the golf tournament, and now we're all talking about Tiger and the Hero World Challenge, which is, fair. That's why they have sponsorship. But he's a smart man. He did that on purpose. 25th, anniversary of his foundation and all that stuff, but. It was kind of funny to me. Just him hitting wedges made such a big stink. And listen, I got excited. I didn't start going, okay, Masters, like Stagner. You don't know Lou like I do, because he's a golf Tiger Woods nerd. He is out there putting out like Tiger Woods Masters 2022. I'm like, easy, Lou. Come on, pal. Let's see if you can get through the father-son challenge or whatever that tournament's called.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's like I've said to people who complain, when Tiger was being shown, he's like 20th in a tournament and CBS is showing every shot. And I go like, wait a sec, you can't complain when you're seeing like a literally living legend. It'd be like you'd want to see all the swings that Babe Ruth would take if you had that opportunity.
Yes, sir, man. That's so the golf season's just about over. They sadly had to cancel the beginning of the European tour.
Yeah,
which began in
the
South
rebranded
Africa.
European tour.
Well, it's funny. Interesting about that they rebranded it the DP World Tour. For a lot of people here in North America who don't know that DP was a big sponsor. DP World, I guess, is a big sponsor of the European Tour.
Mm-hmm. And I have not been reading much about what does DP people do.
No, but I was going to say, here in North America, when I heard they were rebranding it the DP World Tour, I was like, I don't know if they know what DP stands for on, YouPorn. That's the first thing I thought of. Is that, hey, Pelly, is that the best name, really? The DP World Challenge? Seems a bit specific to me.
Well, I
make Coach Tim blush.
I have no idea. I actually have zero idea what that particular acronym refers to.
I'll tell you what, there, fella. When we're done the show, why don't you look it up? But don't make sure Sandy's not around.
I thought it was like just. I was thinking maybe Deep Purple, going deep into their. No. Catalog or something.
Well, you know what I feel like right now? I feel like an older brother talking to his younger brother saying, "Oh, listen, when mom and dad aren't around, go Google DP." And for the rest of you who are listening, he's not kidding. This is how sweet, a beautiful, angelic man we're dealing with here. I am literally the devil. I am the most horrible person compared to this guy. And the fact that you're blushing is making it even more exciting for me.
You can see I'm blushing through.
Oh yeah, you're all red faced and like because
no, I just thought it's just because I'm wearing this hoodie. It's very
getting hot now.
It has insulating qualities.
Yeah, it's very warm in there in the Coach Tim hoodie. Anyway, so yes, they've rebranded it. I'll just tell you what it is, Tim, because all the men listening know what it is. No, I don't know. You know what? I don't think I will. And I've changed my mind again.
It's the Dunhill Products. Thing?
No, I'm saying what the North American person, the average North American man, is going to think DP is. What it actually is in Europe is, I think it's a Middle Eastern company of some kind. But I tell you what, if you Google DP right now, just put DP World. So DP World is a Emirati. It's an Emirati. It's from Dubai, company based in Dubai, specializing in cargo logistics, port terminal operations, and so forth. That's why
we could blame
DP
them for
World.
Supply chain problems we're having.
Sure, but but DP World is also probably a category on Pornhub.
Okay.
Oh my God. This might be one of the funniest moments in this show's history. And there have been some funny moments. But this one right here, kids, this is the one. I may actually edit this and play it on Monday's Humble and Fred show because it really is a very Humble and Fred moment. So, yes, DP World in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, is a moving company, multinational logistics company. And here in North America, DP World involves usually 3 people, Tim.
Oh, okay.
2 people with swords and 1 person with a... Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't want to describe porn to you now. I'm getting embarrassed myself.
Okay.
Anyway, this is one of the most... You know what? I love this show today. It's kind of... It's you and I. It's, somewhat golf related.
Yeah, going like all over, hither and yon.
Very different directions.
Over hill and dale. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on this week. No, I kind of jokingly said, but I do think it was interesting how the PGA Tour has banned those computer-generated golf, those green books. You saw players studiously looking at those books that were done with like lasers of greens, and now you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Those books, they have to be provided by, I guess it's by the golf club. But it was really interesting to me to read it that you can write notes in those. It's okay. Yep. And you can carry last year's notes into this year, but
you can't use the topographical rendering of a green with arrows marking, not only for people who don't know, they not only mark direction, but they mark degrees of slope. And when you're when you're a guy at that level and somebody says it's a 1 or 2% slope, that means something to them in a way like, I took the aim point course a few years ago and it's got something to do with that. Anyway, I think it's great. I would say to the average player, I'm going to ask you this. We would be smart. I keep saying every year, there's a couple of greens on my course, my home course, and I'm sure the same with you and others, where you go, I should mark down that break because the pin's almost never there, but when it is, it confuses me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. No, I think that's a great point. Well, you keep a yardage book, but do you...
I do. And I do on certain greens have the arrows that I've drawn myself. But, I keep saying every year that there's always a couple that come up. I'm like, damn. You'd think by, the joke I make to myself is you'd think after 9 years, you'd know how that breaks. But we all have a few on our home courses. We'd be well off to jot it down somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I do plan to be a yardage book guy next year because I'm now a official decade subscriber. Thank you, Scott Fawcett. And so, yeah, I'm going to be taking a deeper dive, but I'm just, yes, we're all over topics, but
we don't have anything else to do except I'm going to tell you about how stand-up is like golf in a second.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I love that when we talk about that because I love how it all comes together. It works together with my golf is life theme that I've been exploring these days. But yeah, just taking a deep dive into decade videos right now, and particularly the ones on putting, I just find so fascinating because I do a lot of coaching around putting, and I really love the whole idea of stop trying to make birdies. That just makes so much sense that I never really got until our interview with Fawcett. And now that I'm doing this deeper dive into decade, it just makes a ton of sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes when, like I told you that, months ago, but it's hard sometimes. And not that I say, oh, I told you so, but more like sometimes we receive information at different points, when you're ready to hear it. I mean,
absolutely.
I told 100 people this summer, Fawcett says, stop trying to make birdies, leave a certain amount short. The way to avoid the way to lower your scores isn't trying to make a lot of birdies. It's not making a lot of 3 putts. But sometimes when you hear it, enough times, or a guy like Fawcett explained it, maybe explains it better than me. But the concept is, again, easy to understand. The takeaway for decade, and I've had a bunch of conversations recently with people that signed up. Thank you very much. All of it is simple and easy to understand. It's really hard to do. Mm-hmm. And the D, there's the acronym of decade, but one of them is distance. The other D is discipline. We're back to double D's. So I honestly, I can't wait for the show to be over so I can explain to Tim what DP World means. Anyway. But it took me a while to pound into my dumb head that if I stopped trying to make 22 footers and ramming them 4 feet by in there or 5 feet by in 3 putting, I could lower my scores. And so I'm glad that you're doing it. And as far as yardage books and stuff, like I used yardage books because of Decade. You can print the yardage books, and that's a whole other tutorial. I actually had to have Ronan had to explain it to me. But anyway, having yardage books for other courses and mapping those courses in advance definitely helped me. But even on my home course, I had printed the yardage books for all 3 nines, and I would put in those little notes like, from this spot, I know kind of some strategy stuff, or greens that broke a certain way, or, what is the distance to that bunker? And then, we all take our home courses for granted. And I think there's a couple shots in everyone's home course where if you just remembered that break or knew what that distance to carry the bunker was, because they move the tees around. I'll just finish by saying, we were on the first hole at Scotch Block just before the season ended, and I was lasering the bunkers. And somebody made fun of me. They go, "Don't you know how far that is?" I go, "Yeah, but not from this spot." Mm-hmm. Not from because the tees were up. Or what if they're back? So on holes where I have to carry bunkers, potentially, I always laser it on my home course. Now, a lot of us, I never used to do that before Decade.
But it's part of the thing I love about Decade. It's bringing some specificity, if you will, to a game which we're playing in this big field. And I love how Fawcett has brought the analytics to just looking at percentages, and it just makes so much sense. I even had a client who listened to our podcast with Fawcett, and he took some of that target selection stuff to his next game, and he just like, now I'm getting it, because I've been talking about course management for a long time, but when you add the numbers to it, it starts to even make more sense.
Well, the thing is, there is course management that, I remember even last year before I had gone, because I had done Decade with you, and I kept the card, and there was a few principles that I was using, and along with the stuff that Henrik taught me. But even when I went out with you last year, we were talking some course strategy stuff that was beneficial, and that was prior to Decade. But what Decade did for me is it just took me from, kind of where I was inconsistent to make, because that really is the thing all golfers ask you, they ask me, and everybody, how do I get more consistent? Well, we know that you can't be consistent swinging it because that changes every day. But why my handicap dropped and why yours will and others who, if you do this right, is because your approach is consistent. There's no more, what should I do in this situation? Oh, I know what to do. I do the right thing in this situation because of the numbers I know, because of the expectations. From 150 yards, I know that if I get it somewhere near the green, it's a good shot. And if I don't beat myself up about it anymore, because I know that as a scratch amateur, from this point in the fairway, I'm likely to shoot over par. It's just knowing that kind of calms you down, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So let's hear about how did it go last night?
Well, I feel like I've droned on too much, but I'll tell you this. You've done enough public speaking to understand what I'm about to tell you. And for people who haven't, there's no way for me to explain to a non-performer how important how the room is set up is to how the performance is going to go. And I'll give you a quick example. The biggest crowd I've ever done stand-up in front of is 2,500 people. Or 2,000 people. I was on a 2-day opening tour for Howie Mandel. This was years ago. And I was scared shitless. And I was really nervous. And one of the other guys on the show, this is funny actually, was one of the guys on Full House, a guy named Dave Coulier. There was Bob Saget, and then there was John Stamos, and then there was the dopey other uncle guy. He's a pretty good stand-up. So he could see I only had to do 12 minutes. And he could see I was really nervous. I was like 23 or 24. And he says, "Is this your first time doing a big theater show?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Dude, it's the easiest place you'll ever play." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Just trust me. It's the easiest crowd you'll ever work in front of. Because they're all sitting in a theater, looking up at a stage. And the lights are perfect. The mic sounds great. They've paid big money to see Howie Mandel. And by gosh, they're all going to laugh at something." The hardest crowds, and I did really well, because when 2,000 people have a mild laugh, it sounds like a wave. When they really laugh, it's like being in an avalanche. It's something else. Conversely, 20 people in a cafeteria at your office with fluorescent light standing next to a fridge saying, "Now it's time for Funny Boy," not so good, right? And you've done Toastmasters, and so the reason they set up the room that you're going to speak in, where people are looking up and you're looking, you're above them, is that the room is very important to how it's going to go. Are you with me, or are you looking at your? Go ahead, answer it.
No, it's probably someone saying that the CRA are coming to arrest me because for something. So,
my brother Steve is the only guy I know that was sucked in by that.
Oh my God,
I'm not kidding.
Your brother?
My brother was on his way to Best Buy. He I don't know if he left the house, but they had him convinced that he needed to go to Best Buy and get a $2,000 gift card, and he was going to do it.
Oh my gosh.
And I have never stopped giving him shit about that.
Absolutely. How did he do with the Nigerian prince thing?
I know. I am dumb. I'm like, "Hey, dude, listen, if you're at Best Buy paying your tax bill, do you want to pick me up a new battery?" He was like, "Well, I didn't know." I go, "What do you mean you didn't know? Since when does the government want you to go pick up a big screen TV?"
Yeah.
Mr. Glassman, I see you didn't have any RSPs this year. You're going to need to go get me a Sonos.
Oh yeah. God, I remember getting an email from Scott McRoberts. He's the athletic director at the University of Guelph. He says, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" "Okay, what is it?" "I need you to go to Staples and what? Dude, just go down the hall to to where you keep all your staplers and pens and stuff." No. And it went, "Oh, I've been fished in." So.
No, I know. I kept my brother's like, I said to him, like, "So what you thought? Hey, Mr. Glassman, we see you're a little shy on your 2021, return. You've got to go to Best Buy." What? See, the first point he would say Best Buy, I'd hang up. So anyway, the reason I mentioned all about the room is because I walked into, this was a big gig last night. This wasn't me doing stand up for 7 minutes at Yuck Yucks, which I did a couple weeks ago. No big deal. It was like, I hadn't done stand up in 20 months, but I went on stage, I practiced a little bit and I did 7 minutes. 7 minutes.
Where?
I was at Yuck Yucks.
Oh, it was at Yuck Yucks.
This was a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
This is what I just said. But last night was a real gig. I was contracted to do 40 minutes at a big fundraiser, Royal York Hotel, in a room that was not set up, in front of 150 men that had been all in tuxedos, that had been drinking since 6:30 in the evening, and I went on at 9:35. There was a makeshift stage. The lighting was like no spotlight. It was like room lighting. It was like room lighting dimmed, which is horrible because you can sort of half see. But everyone was sitting in tables, which is another bad sign for comedians. Anyway, all of this to say, how does this relate to golf? Well, I really worked hard preparing for this. I didn't take it lightly. They were paying me grown-up money, and there was an expectation. Here's, they've had some big comedians do this dinner, and I was flattered to be asked. And the thing is, also, I was booked in the summer of 2020 for this gig. It was supposed to be last December, but because of COVID, it got canceled. Then they rebooked me, so I've had a lot of time to think about this. Anyway, my point about how it relates to golf is when I went into that room last night as a 40-year veteran of being in front of people, I knew right away that this was going to be a tough condition, that the course was windy that day. Here it comes. That it was going to be playing longer, that it was going to be raining sideways. There was going to be a lot of things that went through my mind. And because of the experience of, don't be too hokey here, but because of being into meditation and controlling my breathing and not panicking, that's the thing I was watching and instead of, going on after a comedian's warmed up for you, I went on after a man in a Maple Leafs blazer. He was the auctioneer who did 40 minutes of yelling, auction yelling. This was the warm up for the funny guy coming up to the stage. So I'm watching this guy before me, and he can't even get their attention, and he's yelling about, Matthews jerseys. But while all this is going on, I'm thinking, how would I handle this if this was a round of golf, a tournament round?
Love it.
And so the first thing I did was I recognized that it was going to be a tough course. The organizer came up to me, really nice man. And he said, hey, I said, well, this looks like it's going to be a tough crowd. He goes, listen, Howard, he's first thing he says to me. There's a friend of mine named Glenn Foster, who's one of the best stand-up comics in the country. He said, well, listen, don't worry. Glenn was here last time, and he only got their attention for 20 minutes, and then he walked off the stage. I was like, oh, but in a weird way that calmed me down. I said, listen, man, I know you've asked me to do 40 minutes, but if that happens to me, are you cool if I do like 20 or 25 and if they're not listening, I bail at that point? He goes, by all means. So I had a bit of an out. So after the reason I want to tell you that I really worked hard in my preparation is I did it every day, like 45 minutes, an hour at a time of trying to remember it and do chunks of it and see if I got the words right. And then I get to the course and all that work on the range, I threw it out. I literally threw out everything I was going to do in terms of the order I was going to do it. And I thought, how can I get these guys' attention? So when they introduced me, I took a long time before I started to sort of talk. I got them to they were shushing each other by the time I spoke.
You did that speaker thing where you just sort of wait?
Yeah, I put my stuff down. I waited. No, actually, first what happened was I walked on and the mic didn't work. That's like teeing off on the first hole and hitting an OB. So he goes, blah, 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 blah. He reads the introduction that I've written, blah, 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 blah. Humble Howard Glassman. I walk out to applause, sort of, and I grab the microphone. It's a wireless. It doesn't work. And I go, well, this is a great start. And then I walk off and I say, let's try it again. And he does the thing again, and I walk out, and now I've got their attention. But I don't start my act. Anyway, it goes on. All I did I did 38 minutes with these guys. And all I did was because I had this whole section that I was going to do about telling golf stories, about hosting the Skins games, about going to some strip clubs, about being in a strip club with not one, but two Masters champions. And I told the story of John Daly hosting a thing with him. And that sort of got their attention because a lot of guys in the room were golfers. And, I'll be honestly, I was a lot dirtier than I normally am. And I was doing stuff, making fun of some guys in the crowd. And I will tell you, it was like on a very tough day, it was like shooting 73. Like I didn't shoot par, but I could have shot 90.
Yeah.
And I had this revelation last night because I thought, it really worked. Being present, breathing, and being in the room was the secret sauce.
Cool.
Because I could have really bombed. And what bombing is to a comedian or a performer or a speaker. And I realized it last night. Bombing is just failing to understand, to what's going on, right? To not accepting that this is now the reality. It's panicking when things don't go well is what bombing is. And last night I was determined not to panic. And I was so happy with it, believe me, I got way bigger laughs in the comedy club 2 weeks ago. Way bigger laughs because they're all there in a comedy club looking up at a stage with a nice microphone and a light, and they're laughing because that's what they're there to do. But it was almost more satisfying because these guys were, one of the first things I said was, wow, what a what a diverse room full of old, rich, white guys, because that's what it was. I just was like saying the reality of what was going on. Then I looked up at these chandeliers. I go, for a bunch of guys sitting around eating meat, this is a bit of a fairy princess vibe in here. And just acknowledging that there was things in the room, including us. Because if I had gone up there and done my act how I had rehearsed it, scripted, if I had just been working on my swing, here it comes again.
Love it.
I wouldn't have been present to the fact that it was raining and windy, and the first few holes were way into the wind. A couple holes later, I got a downwind par 5. I kind of got their attention, and things were rolling. But I'll tell you, man, I know it sounds silly, but I couldn't wait to do the show with you today, because how I prevailed last night had everything to do with being mindful and almost nothing to, and being a professional about it. Like not pouting and not going, well, this sucks. Oh, fuck, I did all this work, and now this is the room. Because I can tell you, the reason I mentioned that, the Howie Mandel thing is, when you watch a performer there's a reason it's set up the way it's set up. And I know that you know this because you've been in rooms speaking to people. Anyway, I was very, very excited about it, and I felt like I did my job. And when I asked the kid who was doing the microphone, who hadn't turned the mic on, as soon as I got off stage, I said, Andrew, how long was that? He says, that's almost 40 minutes. I'm like, really? Because I couldn't have told you. I didn't know how long I was up there. But I kept saying, okay, I'm going to tell you one more story, and then I'm going to go. Okay, I know you guys are, that's another thing I said. Hey, I know you guys are tired. I've been hosting golf tournaments for 20 years, and I know that, listen, it's at the end of the day. And I said, but I got to tell you, I've got the check in my pocket, so I'll stay up here or not. I don't really give a shit. That was kind of like my attitude. I'm going to stand here. I'll do some stuff if you want to hear some stories. And it was great by just acknowledging all the things that were real.
Love it. Absolutely. Love all of that. Good.
So I thought I'd share that with you.
Yeah, well, congratulations on weathering the storm, if you will. I just love, man, how you move seamlessly into your golf analogies. Yeah, and then I got a downwind par 5.
Got a downwind par 5 about the third or fourth hole. I did, because you can feel it as a performer too when you've kind of got I knew it right from the beginning. I teed off, and the guy hands me a microphone that's not working. That's in light of everything else that was horrible about the setup. People sitting in round tables doesn't really work. That's why in Vegas, you ever see those old movies about Vegas where they have the tables are half away?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're all sort of half tables looking outward.
Well, now I know why when I did a workshop at a golf club about a month ago, it didn't go well. It was seriously, they're all in foursomes tables, and it doesn't go well. So that's cool.
Timmy, I can tell you, I'll tell you, and you'll do this as you get more experienced, I'm sure. But I can walk into any room that is going to be where a performance is going to take place. After 40 years, I can walk into any room and tell you immediately what kind of show they're going to have. I did a stand-up gig just before the pandemic ended at one of those conference places up north.
Nottawasaga or something?
One of those, Monte Carlo Inn or someplace like that. And I walk in, and it's an entire room full, 150 people, sitting around round tables that have just eaten a huge meal. And again,
describing my experience a month ago.
Yeah, they've just eaten a big meal. The lights they don't go down all the way, so you can see everyone's faces. And the reason that's a problem, again, I don't want to go into the psychology of this, but I think it might be fascinating. The reason seeing everyone's faces, it's not for the performer. It's when you can see each other, you then start to almost restrict yourself. Because when people can see one another, because sometimes they don't want to know. It's like when somebody else laughs at it, should you be laughing at it too? It's almost like they edit themselves. So I walk in, it's a bunch of circular tables. They've just eaten, and the manager comes up to me and said, "Are you the MC?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, listen, at the very start of the show, I want you to make these raffle draws." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, no worries." I said, "Why don't we do that after, say, the first comedian, and we get the show rolling?" He goes, "Oh, no, this is how we always do it." I go, "Okay." So I walk up with no introduction, and I go, "Hi, everyone got your attention, please?" And before I start doing stand-up myself and get the room ready for the comedians, I've got to go, okay, number 1754310. So Rachel later said, "Hey, honey, how did it go?" And I said, "Well, it started with a raffle draw and went downhill." And all of us just had a tough time.
Yeah.
Because the room was wrong.
Yeah, no, this is so helpful to me, because one of the things that was like, when I was giving that workshop, I was just, the whole vibe was wrong. I felt off balance.
Let me ask you, were you standing on the same level as the people who were watching you?
No, I was standing. Well, yeah, I was standing. They were sitting.
No,
yeah,
but I'm
it's
saying,
all on the
like,
same level.
But you were on the floor
Yep.
of the people. So even though you were standing, you weren't quite above them. And again, it's not for power, but it's for focus.
Yeah, I get it. No, this is, I'm taking a lot of stuff from this, and when we're done, and another time I'll take a deeper dive into this, because this is hugely helpful to me. But just in light of time, we don't have a lot of time left, but I just want to make an even, I don't know, connect some dots to the actual playing of golf, to what you just described. I love what you were saying there, and that's so, the lessons learned are so applicable to golf. And what I love, the fact is that you were in the moment. You're responding to what was real, what was actually happening, as opposed to what you had planned in advance, and it should be this, and I'm going to follow this script. And I think that's what happens to us in golf and other parts of our lives. We have this sense of, well, it should be like this, and this is what I planned, and I feel safe doing it. Or we react in other ways, and it just puts us in a place of not being able to respond to what's actually happening. And
I obviously agree. It's like that Sam Harris thing that I played off, where I got it off Fawcett in the spring, when he talked about, human beings are meant to solve problems. And if you think someday is going to come where you don't have a problem to solve, where your computer isn't going to pop, go bad, or, something's going to happen with some piece of equipment. But I can tell you, an earlier version of myself would have gone into that room last night. I would have panicked. I would have gotten pissed off, because part of me was thinking, well, I know you planned all that stuff, but you better figure out something else, because this is happening now. This isn't going to go away. I can't call for help. I'm in this now, just like in a golf game,
No, this is really good stuff, because even though I've been doing workshops for a long time, even this podcast, webinars, every once in a while, I'll get this sort of feeling in my chest of like, this isn't really going well. How are they perceiving me? Do I even know what I'm talking about?
Of course.
And I think every performer goes through this
absolutely
to some degree, but I'm still getting my reps in terms of developing skill of around being able to respond to it and be in the moment, rather than being kicked up into my head, and particularly into, my alarm that, oh, something's wrong, you could die now.
Well, but again, you make the point, like, it's just repetition, but it's also for me, it's been a bit of a revelatory thing, because I've been doing stand-up a long time, but a lot of stand-up the last 4 or 5 years, and then of course the pandemic shut that down for a while. But I can tell you that we've talked about this on the Humble and Fred show quite a bit. When you hear something that's fake, what we perceive of as fake is when something's, like, a lot of times radio people, the old style radio people, is there would be a mistake and they wouldn't acknowledge it. Whereas I come from the school of, like, the more mistakes, the merrier. It's the David Letterman school of when things go wrong, or Carson. Carson was at his funniest when the joke bombed, because of the way he would respond to it. Not react, but respond. So we call it in radio denying the verbal reality. And what that is if somebody, screws up a word and it comes out pussy instead of pussy, and then you don't say, oh, by the way, you just said pussy, then you're denying the verbal reality. That thing just happened, but by denying it, the audience goes, well, that's not a real person, because we all heard that. So when I came on that stage last night, I wasn't defiant, but I was a bit aggressive. I let them know in no uncertain terms that I got paid. So we're either going to do this, and not in an unpleasant way, but we're either going to do the show, or I don't care, really. And by slightly not caring as well, there you go, by having an air about me of slightly not caring, that translated into making whatever I said to them my character, not the material. There were several times when I sort of pretended to get mad at them and said, "Fuck you, Moose and Goose. That's a funny joke." And then they laughed at that. It was called the Moose and Goose dinner. Anyway, but yeah, I was pretending that if they didn't get the joke, it was their fault, not mine.
Well, I love that, because you're challenging your audience, and they're going to respond. I think they're going to tune in even more.
Oh yeah.
But I think that what you're talking about, to some degree, is that I'm not living and dying with this. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to, like, after this is done, I'm going to go home and see my sweetie, or tomorrow's going to be another day. I'll be fine. And I think that's a pretty good attitude to have in all things, is that this, I'm not going to die doing this. Whether this goes well or not, I'm okay.
And I agree. And next time listen, I've bombed plenty of times. But it always happens when I panic, or I don't adjust to the situation, or I get too invested in it. Those are those rounds when you have blow up holes and you're trying too hard and all the things we talk about on Swing Thoughts, but they all come from the same place, which is sure, it's easy to talk about chipping sideways when you get in trouble in December, but what if you're in your club championship and you think, oh, I can really get it through those trees? Well, that's when it counts. So being able to have these ideas and understand them when it counts is the hardest part. It's the discipline part. But
absolutely. And well, I just wanted, I can't let this go, because
don't let it go.
This is so helpful to me, because in that workshop I gave it was about 5 or 6 weeks ago. It was the first in-person workshop I'd done in about 18 months.
Right.
So I didn't have my reps in and dealing with a live audience. I've been doing tons of webinars, which is a totally different, interaction. So given that it was a workshop, I did my PowerPoint. And I think what happened was, part of it was, wrong room setup, et cetera, was that I was cognizant of following my script, as it were, based on the slides. And if I had read the room and responded to what was going on, I would have maybe said, oh, to hell with this. I'm just going to stand here and talk, or ask your questions, or just go with it. Because there was times where I walked away from the podium to tell a story, and I could just feel my body relax. I got into the story, got into characters of the story, and had fun, and people were really, and then it went back to the podium script, and where are we now? And so are we in slide 17 or 15? And then it just kind of bogged down again. So this is really super helpful for me.
And how it relates to golf, again, I'm sure people by now have figured out, but I mean, we get caught up in our material being, the swing you're working on and the swing you're trying to make, and I'm trying to fit this swing. Meanwhile, you've got to, you're not adjusting to the conditions of the playing field. And when I got home last night and I started writing down some of these notes, I thought, this is because I really made a conscious effort to get my breathing down, to work on, in the afternoon, again, I meditated. Because I was getting pretty excited, and also, excited, nervous, a little bit scared. It's again, doing 7 minutes at Yuck Yucks 3 Saturdays ago. I was nervous, but when I walked into that room and I saw that the place was packed, I'm like, oh man, this is nothing but downwind holes, man. It really isn't. Like, I know a lot of people listening would be frightened for you'd think the more people, the more frightening. It's not.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And especially a comedy club has such and it's Saturday night and everyone is in a great mood. Like, there really isn't a softer landing. And it's interesting that they make amateurs go on a Tuesday night when there's only 30 people in the room and 25 of them are the other comics waiting to go on. It's impossible to get a laugh.
Yeah.
But you could put an amateur on a Saturday night at Yuck Yucks and give them a couple minutes and they'd probably do okay, just because the audience is there to lift you up. Anyway, we got to wrap up. I know, listen, I could talk forever, as you know, but you've got to go. I'll just tell you that the next time, forget the next time. I've just learned so much about how I show up as a comic and as a speaker, from how I've learned to handle myself, not throwing clubs and not freaking out and all that other stuff that golf has given us. which is why, it's so good doing the show with you there, Coach.
It falls right in line with what we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks, this theme of golf is life and how we show up in different parts of our lives. And I had my first Golf is Life online golf nerd group on Tuesday. It went great, but it's all in this same ballpark. Is that golf is how we show up in life, and how we show up in different parts of life is how we show up in golf. It's all inextricably intertwined.
And that's where we'll leave it for today. Thanks to Jonathan Wong Apparel, Inc. Even though this is the unofficial season, we still want to acknowledge these fine folks that support us. TaylorMade Golf, #1 ball in golf and drivers and all sorts of stuff. And we're really lucky. We're going to be hanging out next week, and we'll tell you about our TaylorMade fitting. And then, of course, coming in the new year, we've got some cool Swing Thoughts merch. Tim O'Connor, o'connorgolf.ca. Yes?
Absolutely.
That's still where people get a hold of you for your stuff?
o'connorgolf.ca.
And, of course, humbleandfredradio.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Way on down south.